The underground networks of pipes beneath our feet act as the roots of our communities, supplying our homes and facilities with water, fuel, and energy. Just as a plant relies on its roots to live, society relies on its pipes to operate. But this crucial infrastructure is deteriorating and fast. Each year, corrosion degrades the equivalent of 20% of the world's steel. And as the system as a whole ages, the corrosion phenomenon is gaining momentum, the cost of which is now 6 times higher than in 2003. To give you an idea of just how expensive this issue is, corrosion costs the world $2.5 trillion annually. That's 3.5% of the world's GDP. Hello, I am your host, Mike Lake. And in today's preview, I will be speaking with Solveig and Tristan about this issue and how they are tackling it with their company, Heuristech.
Innovation, resiliency, discovery. Join Mike Lake, President and CEO of Leading Cities, as we explore the technologies shaping the possibilities of our future with a preview of tomorrow.
Hello and welcome, Tristan and Solveig. Thank you both so much for joining us today on Preview of Tomorrow. I do want to, of course, thank our listeners and viewers as well, and let you all know that I'm just thrilled to introduce you to both Solveig Parent and Tristan de Silva, who are the co-founders of Heuristech, a company that uses differential reflectometry mapping. I have to say that one slow, to assess coating conditions on buried pipeline networks. Now, look, let's be honest. Buried pipes is something I think we all think very little about. So tell me, how did both of you end up focusing on this? How did you come to be co-founders of Heuristech?
Thank you very much, Mike. And let me tell you, we are very happy to be with you today. So yeah, because it's buried, of course, we think very little of buried pipes. You know, it's not something you see. So, well, like many good stories, it all started in Texas. So basically, I was there for my research. I was a graduate researcher at the corrosion lab at Texas A&M, and well, this problem was brought to us by a company. Maybe we'll talk about that later. And that project grew and grew. It was met with a lot of success in the field, led to a patent and a company. And so I thought about Solveig back in France, and I thought, oh, this is something I want her on board with me to go for the next stage, and that is the startup stage.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Solveig.
My name is Solveig. I graduated from a top-tier French business school, after which I started working in sales and marketing in a big corporation. I then seized the opportunity to join the adventure with Tristan and co-found Heuristech. I bring complementary insight in the managing team where I am in charge of business development.
Fantastic. Yeah. Diving a little bit into this challenge and just to reiterate the point, this is out of sight, out of mind for most of us until it becomes a real problem. I can tell you, just in my own neighborhood, not that long ago, we had a water main break, which floods the street, shuts down the street, impacts the homes that are directly affected. I mean, these can be real disruptive experiences. I think we've seen a tremendous increase in the number of these types of incidents. A sign that our infrastructure is aging. So it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So with all that in mind, tell me a little bit more about, how do you see this solution, or first the problem? How do you see this problem evolving on a global scale?
Well, what is there left to say? You basically had a very nice approach to the whole problem. Yeah, exactly. Like infrastructure is a pretty big deal, and a critical component to our everyday life in cities and elsewhere. And most of it is invisible because it's buried, and in cities it's beneath the streets. So most important among this infrastructure are like pipelines, and especially pressurized steel pipelines. So we're talking water, gas, oil, but even electricity, because high voltage electric feeders, those are encased in the pressurized pipelines too. We're talking thousands of miles of those pipes, beneath big cities. And so all of this has been built in most of the world. It has been built in different stages, of course, but like for example, the developed countries, it was built like decades ago during very rapid economic growth period. And so we don't realize how much money and effort has been invested in building all this infrastructure. And now that it is reaching very critical age, we can't rebuild it all in one go. Like we need to face very challenging environments and very challenging decisions to best manage those assets, so that they last for as long as possible and with the best service for everyone living in city.
Well, and we're not just talking about, although you make a great point, you cannot rebuild the world's infrastructure overnight. But this is also a very costly issue. Can you give us a sense of what that price tag looks like, or how it can be reduced?
Yes, indeed. In cities, between permits, excavation, repairs, and cleanup, the minimum cost of a leak, however small, is $300,000. A large leak will impact distribution, and in that case, the cost skyrockets to several million dollars. It also causes pollution and makes the congestion even worse than it is already. Basically, detection methods to assess buried pipeline are strongly limited in cities. Right now, when it comes to corrosion, utilities need to take a guess at where problems are and dig up the entire streets to find one bad spot. So I would say that it is really a safety concern as well as an ecological and economic emergency to tackle corrosion management challenges.
So I just want to point out that for any of our listeners who might now be thinking to themselves, well, this is a government problem. This doesn't affect me. That is true if you don't use water, if you don't use electricity, if you don't use natural gas, et cetera, et cetera. So this is actually a problem for all of us, which is why the work you are doing at Heuristech is really so valuable and impactful. So first of all, I understand you fairly recently won the Corrosion Innovation Award. Tell us a little bit about that. Such exciting news. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we are honored to have been appointed as Corrosion Innovation of the Year 2021. It is a prize awarded by the NACE, National Association of Corrosion Engineers. By the way, it just has been renamed AMPP. This prize is about rewarding technical innovations that solves big challenges for the industry and that were met with a great success on the field. So let me tell you that we were very proud to see a Heuristic name alongside giants of the energy and corrosion industry for this occasion.
Well, it's certainly an accomplishment to be proud of. Now tell us more about Heuristech and what it is that you've built that earned this award.
Heuristech is born after 3 years of research dedicated to solving the corrosion issue we just talked about. Our service is based on a breakthrough technology called DRM, differential reflector mapping. At Heuristech, we believe that preventive and predictive maintenance is the smart way to tackle corrosion management, and our technology is the key to enable this. And I will maybe let Tristan talk us about how it works exactly, DRM, because yes, he is the best to talk about it.
Perfect.
So, well, from a scientific point of view, pipelines, so what struggles is that they're remarkably good waveguides for electromagnetic waves. So we were thinking, I mean, wouldn't it be amazing to use this feature, to harness this feature to solve the very problem of corrosion, and to detect the places where this corrosion threat can occur. And so yes, we harnessed on one side this feature, and on the other hand the power of reflectometry. And so I mean, this gives us DRM, which is basically a radar for pipelines. And so in the field, what we're going to do is like there are connection points, whatever systems you're talking about, you know, whether it is gas pipelines or electrical networks of electrical feeder networks. There are connection points distributed throughout the system, you know, for corrosion monitoring purposes, just for the potential. And we're going to connect to those access points and use them to inject a pulse. This pulse is going to get reflected back to us when it hits coating defects where you have corrosion threats. And so this gives us, so we have detection, we have ranging with the time delay it takes to get back to us. And so, you know, this gives us an assessment of the network. And we go from connection point to the connection point, and we have the entire network mapped out.
It's
basically,
really
I hope I was I was clear enough.
No, it's very clear. Well, at least for my simple mind, I'm thinking of it more like a sonar, so to speak, equivalent for pipes.
Yes, I mean that's yes. The radar ray is for like radio. Sonar is for, you know, sonic. So it depends, and so it's like electromagnetic waves. So, you know, it just depends what kind of wave you're sending, but then it's all the same: detection and ranging.
Exactly, which is a huge value. I mean, not just to detect the problem, but I mean, as you kind of already alluded to, no city or community wants to be tearing up all of its streets, checking to see if the pipes are corroded, you know. And so by narrowly targeting specific locations, it's not only more cost effective, but it's far less disruptive, which brings it right back to us, the average person, because we all know what it means to see those, you know, orange flags and you know, utility vehicles blocking a road, what it means for traffic and not getting home in time and not getting to work in time and so on and so forth. But again, coming back to the cost, I mean, it's such a cost savings when we have so much that we have to be investing in, especially in infrastructure. Every penny, or in this case, billions, if not trillions of dollars that we need to be spending is so valuable. So I want to be mindful of you know, our audience and thinking a little bit more about the impact that this really has. I mean, I've hit it from a very high level, but from your point of view, how would you describe the impact Heuristech has on a community?
So yes, from the community, the community is not going to see all the technique, all the cost savings from the utility company perspective, and the savings in terms of, you know, if we're talking about carbon footprint, steel is very, you know, is expensive and very energy consuming to make. So when you think that 20% of the steel production in the world is dedicated to replacement and solutions because of corrosion, you know, that we're talking you know, a very large footprint. So from the pure community perspective, yes, I think you you described it very well.
Yes.
Like having those orange cones blocking the streets both sides, because, you know, manholes have two entries that need both to be open and are accessible for repairs. When you're talking digging entire streets, I mean, that's crazy. Okay, we know for the few cities like we we worked in. We're not going to give examples, but yes, that can cause long-lasting and annoying disruption for traffic. And for service, yes, I mean, electricity, like in high-rise cities, it's so anybody who got trapped in an elevator for hours because electricity was cut off had a very bad experience. And yeah, that's also part of, for the community, this is how change is going to be felt.
So as you look at deployment around the world, describe to us a little bit, and then I'm going to have to cut us off, I think, shortly after that, because our time is wrapping up quickly. But who are the customers for you, and when and where does that happen, that deployment look like? How does it happen?
So this also leads back to us about like when it was created. The first, like the people who started who brought the project to the lab, what it was really at the design stage, and when we had to climb the technology readiness ladder all the way up, it was a Consolidated Edison company. So it's for those of you who may know, it's the electricity company of New York. And so this is a very important need for them, because they were in dire need for a tool to assess their buried pipelines remotely in a non-invasive way. And so deployment, I mean, this is an example, and now we're working with more utilities, more sectors. Deployment is working with those companies to train their technicians how to perform measurements, and then working closely with us how to analyze and interpret the data. So in deployment, we work in close relationship with utilities, and this is how we think the best way to get this value out there and to really enable predictive and preventive maintenance, which is the holy grail of many industries.
Sure.
And for that industry, we believe that the key is DRM.
Which makes it very scalable, which is such an important thing. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm so sorry that our time has run short here. There's so many more questions. Yes. I'm sure we can ask and more information for you to share. But for anybody who wants to learn more, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yes, if you have any interest for a company, or if you want to learn more about DRM for buried pipeline assessments, please do not hesitate to check our website at heuristech.us, or contact us at the mailing address contact@heurist.tech. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. It was very nice having this conversation with you.
Well, thank you both for joining me today, and thank you for the work you're doing. As I said, you're the unsung heroes of infrastructure. So we're very grateful to the dedication you have to this such an important topic.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Preview of Tomorrow. Listeners like you are essential to advancing our efforts to drive resiliency and sustainability for all. I ask that you give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or whichever streaming platform you prefer. Your feedback helps us to grow and share these brief previews of what life in the future can be. In addition to thanking our guest today, I want to thank Peter Roy and Demetria Bridges for making this podcast possible. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and encourage others to also join us each week in previewing the possibilities of tomorrow.
Preview of Tomorrow is brought to you by Leading Cities, a global nonprofit driving resilience and sustainability for all by unleashing the potential of the world's cities. Join them at leadingcities.org.